Look upon my people. Now we are going up our culture. The oppressors have changed our skin. We need to build back ourselves. Oh, bring back the milk and honey. Can't you stand push medicine? Bring back the milk and honey. Vanilla and cassava. Bring back the milk and honey. Coconut oil and castor. Bring back the milk and honey. Oh yes, my people, hear the cry of the we are oppressed, so long we've been kept down. Remember, he said it's fruitful, that we need mother transport. Bring back the milk and honey. Can't you stand bush medicine? Bring back the milk and honey. Vanilla and cassava. Coconut oil and castor. Bring back the milk and honey. Reverend, don't slip, don't sit down and just stop. We got the land and perhaps willing to grow. Remember the good old days, we got to work the land and stay whole land. Bring back the milk and honey. Can't you stop much medicine? Bring back the milk and honey. Bring back the milk and honey. Coconut oil and castor. Bring back the milk and honey. Bring back the milk and honey.
Good evening, Mr. Deja.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, how are you doing?
Hello, good evening. Yes, testing 1 2. We're on? Okay, good.
We are on.
Good evening once again. Good evening to Dr. Lockett.
Good evening, Mr. Deja. Very nice to be here with you again on the Natural Health and Healing Hour on Q95.
Thank you. It's also a pleasure to be here with you also. And I must say, I'm so privileged to be in your presence, Dr. Lockett, knowing that you are such a determined and, highly motivated young lady. So it's a pleasure to be here in studio with you once again to edify the public. I'm saying good evening to the public who are listening near and far. We're in the studios of Q95. We're here as usual to edify you, to empower you on natural healing.
Yes, and it's a pleasure to be here with you. And my own experience has made me understand and believe in the power of natural herbal medicine myself. My own medical experience showed me the power of natural medicine. When the conventional medical system gave up on me, it was natural medicines and the rubs and the bushes and the baths
That's it.
brought me to where I am. So this is my commitment because I myself have seen the positive results and the reality, what is possible.
So
with
you're
natural
living
medicine.
testimony. You're living testimony.
I suppose you can say that, yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
And it's good that, we are there also to remind our listeners to let you be aware that you don't have to suffer from any illness. You don't have to suffer from hypertension and diabetes, from cancer, from any non-communicable diseases. You don't have to suffer from fibroids and cysts, women, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, all these conditions. We are here to let you know that you're not hopeless, you're not vulnerable. There's natural medicines all around us.
Absolutely,
Only when
absolutely.
we find the knowledge on the use of these natural medicines, then we're going to find ourselves being empowered. So, Dr. Lockhart, I know you have done a lot of research preparing for this evening. So, I pass the mic over to you.
Well, I guess it's not just this evening. The research that we've done in my partnership with you, I must say that I've been pleased to have the opportunity to work, because what we've come across in terms of the problems that we've found ourselves in here in the Caribbean and in Dominica in particular, the research shows that that doesn't have to be the case. So last week, for example, we talked about how 75 to 80% of deaths in Dominica and the Caribbean and OACS, CARICOM in general, are from non-communicable diseases, chronic diseases, high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, kidney failure, so forth. But this week, I want to focus on some different stats, some statistics that highlight that chronic diseases are not, absolutely not inevitable, and they don't have to be the norm. They don't have to be what we succumb to. And huge clinical trials with thousands of people, sometimes a whole million people, trials looking at healthier foods, physical activity, weight management, stress management, and so forth. And particularly trials looking at the focus on herbal medicine and on natural traditional health practices. They've proven and they've shown that wellness and healing can be substantially improved and chronic diseases substantially reduced. So, those, just like we had the statistics showing one thing last week, this week we can attest that, for example, lifestyle changes can be a measurable health improvement in terms of taking care of diabetes, for example. And there, I took a lot of time to look at credible studies. For example, there's a study from the New England Journal of Medicine that put together thousands of patients and with type 2 diabetes and those with high risk for type 2 diabetes. And they tested them and monitored them for making changes to their body weight, exercise, and food, and you'd be surprised. Lifestyle changes had outcomes that proved that more than 60% of people improved. Some of them no longer had to suffer from diabetes after they made three big key changes in lifestyle. Number one was addressing their weight by about 7%. Number two, doing about 150 minutes of exercise weekly, which is really 20 minutes a day every day or 30 minutes 5 days a week. And the third thing was reducing dietary fat, especially saturated fat, improving their food choices. So those things, on average, it took about 2 years for the average person, but those lifestyle changes improved 60% of all type 2 diabetes patients that they dealt with, as opposed to only 30% of people who were taking drugs, metformin in particular. So living the life, eating well, using herbal medicines, that made that extremely impactful difference. And that was diabetes. Then there's a similar Finnish study that showed that lifestyle changes again, 58%, 60 to 60% had better improvement than those that had were just on drugs dealing with glucose tolerance. So it's possible, it's very, very possible that what we do as a people, how we eat, how we live, can change our lives for the better to give us better health. And same thing, blood pressure. That a number of studies showing there's a big DASH dietary trial, for example, that showed that hypertension could be reduced significantly, and it took an average of 8 weeks with weight loss and reducing sodium, changing the lifestyle. That was another study in New England Journal of Medicine, that people would they moved the people to eat more fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, and nuts, and have stay away from dairy and saturated fats, and that led to significant improvements in blood pressure results and hypertension. And those clinical trials went over thousands of people across lots of different cultures, races, and so forth. So that is not just one set. So that gave me a lot of, it made me feel empowered to know that there's one set of negative statistics, but also positive statistics too. And the same for heart attacks, strokes, and cardiovascular diseases. Again, a bunch of other trials, thousands of adults again. They moved them towards choosing a Mediterranean lifestyle with vegetable fruits, beans and lentils, nuts, olive oil, whole grains. And even when they use coconut oil, they saw even more improvement. And people lowered their risk by at least 30%, moving away from cardiovascular events. So it's possible for us to see those changes. Very, very possible according to how we live. And I wonder for you, have you seen those changes in your practice over the years with lifestyle and herbal medicine? Have you seen those changes for these particular chronic illnesses that we suffer from?
I've seen numerous changes. I mean, the evidence of these changes, it's the evidence is overwhelming. Based on the research that you just alluded to, one of the areas that we find ourselves in a state of not receiving maximum benefits from from this holistic approach. Whenever you take what you call a passive approach, you only covering up what you call the symptoms.
True.
But when you're looking at healing and treating the whole body, you have to consider a holistic approach, which comprises of nutrition, as you spoke of whole foods, you speak of herbal medicines. And considering these two approaches, you need to set a plan.
Okay.
And that plan needs to be 100% plan-based in accordance to the result you're looking for. And when I say plant-based, we need to understand that our body thrives on what they call phytonutrients. Our body thrives on antioxidants. And the plants are the greatest medium, as I've said, you could achieve these antioxidants and phytonutrients from. We have a dislike for when it comes to bitter properties, bitter herbs. And I want to elaborate and expound on the wonders and the power of bitter herbs. Bitter herbs are actually the most alkalizing herbs. And speaking of conditions like hypertension and diabetes, bitter herbs, it's paramount in treating such condition for you to get what you call a holistic approach, a holistic healing. Because what bitter herbs does, it stimulates your vital organ. It helps with the liver.
Okay.
And also helps with the pancreas, is the spleen. And whenever you are treating your body from the root cause, which is a glandular approach, therefore, results, healing is ultimate. And as we have been seeing over the years, we can mention one of the very, very important herbs that we use for such conditions, namely hypertension. We have a very common herb that we all should know locally as blue vervain.
I'm smiling because last week when you mentioned hypertension, that's always the herb I tend to refer people to. And you, before you even give the scientific name, I said, "Oh, blue vervain." But at that point, you were talking about dandelion. So tell us about blue vervain, definitely.
Blue vervain is reputable for hypertension. Blue vervain, as I said, blue vervain is well researched, scientifically researched. Scientifically, we know blue vervain as Verbena hastata.
Yes.
And we must understand these herbs have been used for thousands of years. It's even in the pharmacopoeia. So this is herbal medicines that was recommended for conditions like inflammation,
Yes.
conditions like insomnia. conditions like hypertension, conditions where you have problems dealing with your cardiovascular system, your heart. So verbena hastata is one of the key herbs that I would advise patients to actually find out more information about blue vervain and see the need to incorporate blue vervain as part of your lifestyle change,
Oh yes. Oh
because
yes.
a change of lifestyle is very important when it comes to dealing with hypertension or diabetes. Because the culprits, most times it's an excess for diabetes, an excess level of glucose or sugars in the blood.
Exactly.
Now, what can increase your blood sugar levels? The foods you eat.
Exactly.
And what are the foods specifically you were speaking of?
Foods with processed starch, processed
Processed
sugars.
foods.
Yes, those
You-
ultra processed foods.
You're looking at your wheat products. You're looking at wheat contain what they call gluten. And gluten, your body can't break down gluten. And even with gluten, we know that gluten is the protein in the flour. So gluten is not one of the products that you should be consuming whenever you're suffering from such conditions.
So people need to pay attention to when they have these conditions. In addition to taking preventive measures, when they do have this condition, they have to be more particular, careful about what they put in their
Or
body.
the diet, yes. So
Definitely.
bread is a no-no. Pasta is a no-no.
But those are our favorite things in Dominica. Bread, mastiff, jackawi.
Yes.
Still there?
So these are the foods that can really compromise our system. So rather than promoting these non-food items, you resort to your ground foods, your provision. You might say, oh, well, Mr. Deja, Dashin also have starch. But let's understand, our body can assimilate and break down the natural starches from the Dashin versus the starch from the factory, the processed starches. So we need to define the natural starch from our ground provisions and even our vegetables versus the processed starches. Our body don't assimilate them in the same way.
Definitely.
Our body can burn the natural starches very, very easily. Just exert yourself.
Of course.
So-
and we should definitely talk about that. You're absolutely right.
So going back to our ground provisions, or yams, or green bananas, or sweet potatoes, or dashin, having it in moderate amounts, definitely, and be mindful as a diabetic or someone suffering from hypertension. Be mindful of your arrangement, your plate or your food arrangement. For example, always have less starch
And more
and protein
vegetables.
and more green leaf vegetables. Okay, I'll repeat: less starch, less protein, more greens. Predominantly, your plate should be more green than anything else.
Yeah, not a big piece
And-
of meat. You
and-
shouldn't have meat really.
Well,
But if you choose to, that shouldn't be the
should have
biggest
meat.
part.
Yeah, you should have meat. Your greens is your meat.
Well,
Your food is your meat.
yeah.
But you should say no flesh, because flesh is a contradiction when it comes to a holistic approach in healing this human body.
Very true.
We know flesh is very acidic, so we try to avoid as much acidity as possible. So as a diabetic or hypertensive patient, always remember, predominantly you need to have more greens. We don't recommend, the use of rice, but we know some people, because of their economic status, they have rice.
Yeah.
Be mindful, you need to have more greens, even if you're having your rice.
Greens, vegetables in your
Okay.
plate. So your plate should be 75% greens and vegetables, 65 to 75% of greens and veggies, and then your other whole foods, your other plant-based foods.
Exactly.
And it's funny because that's another piece of research that I had taken time to do. And again, we had the evidence last week and the research last week of the negative sign. And there's evidence again, key and clear evidence from reputable studies showing how vegetables, fruits, and whole plant foods can impact people's lives. And there was a study done and published in the International Journal of Epidemiology that put forward the results. And this was a big study with over 2 million people. What it did is they brought 95 different studies together that polled 2 million people. And the evidence showed that by eating about 800 grams daily of fruits, vegetable, particularly fruits, vegetable, and whole grains. It lowered the risk of coronary heart disease by about 25%. It lowered the risk of stroke by about 35%, 33 to 35. It lowered the risk of cardiovascular disease by almost 30%. It lowered the risk even of total cancer by almost 15% and of premature deaths by over 30%. So there is this saying that the researchers put together. They said the researchers estimate that millions of premature deaths worldwide might be preventable if fruit and vegetable consumption increased. So that tells you a lot. So we have the possibility and the opportunity right here to increase our fruit and vegetable consumption, and we can save lives. We can reduce the incidence of chronic diseases. So this made me smile in doing the research. And people, I was talking to a girl and she said, "But what do you mean whole grains?" Whole grains is the complete seed where you have the bran, which is the fiber-rich part of the plant, and then you have the germ, which is the nutrient-rich part of the plant, and then the third part is the starchy part, the endosperm. And what happens when they process foods? When they process foods, for example, when you have rice, then you have white rice that's processed. They take off the brown things around. They take off the bran, which has the fiber. They take off the germ, which has the nutrients. And what we have left is the endosperm, which is the starchy part. And that's what refining foods does. It takes off the bran and the germ. So we're left with just the starch. So of course that makes it's quicker sugar, and then the whole way the body processes is so different. So different. But the evidence is there that what we eat, as you've said, is part and parcel, as you would like to say, with herbal medicine and restoring health and healing.
Yeah, because when you have been seeing continuously the trend of removing persons from a specific diet and introducing them to a plant-based diet, which we have our tailored diet plan for our clients. So just imagine in 9 days, abstaining from processed foods, eating more fresh and wholesome foods. The fresher the foods is the better. Likewise, the fresher the medicines are the better. And in 9 days, you've seen such a significant change in an individual. Even in this week, I had an experience, with a patient, and I mean, it's on my mind, but it's still kind of me going away from my tangent, but it's something that I have to see for the awareness
What happened?
of our general public. Someone came to me, looking for assistance for a specific condition, and I mean, it's cancer. And this individual came and claimed that they went to this group. I think there was a group that was visiting Dominica from Trinidad.
Okay.
It was some medical person, whatever. And they were visiting some communities. Portsmouth was one of the communities they visited. I think they went to Marigot and some other places. So interestingly, one of the persons that attended the function came to me and told me he wanted me to assist him because he had cancer. So following protocol, I want to see what are the findings, the tests that you did, and to understand the nature of the condition. So I asked the individual for this information, and he gave me his phone, and he told me all the information is on his phone. So I took the phone and I started reading, and the information that was on his phone is basic information and terminologies of different illnesses. For example, there was hypertension, and they would tell you what is hypertension. There was diabetes, and they tell you what was diabetes. There was many arthritis, and what is arthritis.
So medical terms,
and medical terms. And I'm speaking and say, but sir, this doesn't, say anything about your specific condition.
So it didn't refer to him?
It did not refer to him.
It wasn't his tests?
So I asked him, what is this about? He told me that is what they issued to him at the place he went to. And I said, sir, but there is no findings, there is no conclusive evidence of you having cancer. And we had a dialogue, and he was actually renewed in his mind, because before he came to me, he was convinced that he had cancer. And I explained to him, we sat, we had a dialogue. There was no evidence on the document stating that this individual had cancer. So I'm saying to us, we have to be very, very, very careful, of persons that are coming with may have goodwill or good intention. I cannot say, but that experience was a very bizarre experience. Actually, the individual was, he thanked God, because he had this conviction that he has cancer for many days, and a simple clarity, based on the information that he had, I could bring that to his attention, and I advise him to seek further medical attention.
Right, to find out for sure.
Yes. So I think, we don't have to be as vulnerable, as we make ourselves to be, because with your health, there is no quick fix. There is no overnight approach. With your health, you have to be aware of your foods predominantly, because you are what you eat. You have to be aware of what are the herbs that you can take when you feel some form of abnormality, when you feel some form of dizziness, when you feel some form of low energy, when you feel some form of pain, because there are herbs all around us in our environment that can work in synergy with who we are. And Dr. Lockhart, there is a very important herb that I've worked with significant results. And this herb is actually a marine plant. We have these herbs, it is actually seasonal.
Which one?
There are times you would see this herb thriving. We call it wawet locally,
Kelp.
We call it wawet locally. The English name, we call it kelp. Kelp is one of the marvelous herbs we have in our marine environment. Kelp, scientifically, it is well researched, well studied. We call it Mycocystis microphyllum, ascophyllum.
Okay.
Kelp is one of the herbs we have growing wild. Kelp is one of the wild vegetables we have growing in our marine environment. And this is one of the herbs we can attest for its iodine properties. And in my research with kelp, we know that in the Asian countries, a lot of women, they would consume kelp as part of the diet. And research have shown that the rate of breast cancer is very low amongst these women that consume the seaweeds.
Wow.
So kelp is one of the plants that can act as a preventative measure and also a curative measure whenever you have such condition like cancer. And further research in kelp shows that there is this compound, this salt called sodium alginate in the kelp. And this sodium alginate, it is said that it goes directly to your bloodstreams to help to remove as far as radioactive pollutants from your blood.
So that's a cancer fighter right there.
Definitely. So kelp is one of the marvelous herbs we have growing in the environment. We also know of the thyroid gland. Your thyroid gland, we know your thyroid gland helps to regulate a lot of bodily functions. Your thyroid gland helps to regulate some of the hormonal functions that we have.
Oh yeah.
The thyroid gland thrives on iodine for proper functioning. So kelp is one of the supplements that we have that can assist for proper functioning of the thyroid gland. We know persons with what they call goiter. Goiter might be a deficiency of iodine.
Yes,
and
definitely.
even hypertensive patients, you may not be considering the thyroid gland is one of the glands that will assist with your hypertension and help to regulate your blood pressure level. But yes,
Definitely.
the thyroid gland plays a critical role. So I'm saying to us, kelp, let's incorporate kelp as part of our nutrition. Kelp, as I said, is a marine plant. You can use it as a fresh salad, or you can even use the kelp as in your soups, incorporate it in your soups, because the kelp is what the fish would eat. So I'm saying to us, rather than eating the fish to get the nutrients, why don't go to the source
directly
that the fish eat, and we'll get the substance and the nutrients directly from the herb. So kelp is one of the plants we have. Also for inflammation, kelp can be crushed. Person with rheumatism and inflammation, swelling, you can also crush the kelp. Locally, most elderly people will know it as wawet, and we would apply it on the inflamed area, on the painful area,
Directly.
and directly on the area,
Okay.
and definitely it gets rid of the
And tie
inflammation.
it.
And yes, you
Okay.
band it,
Okay. Wow.
and it gets rid of inflammation.
Wonderful.
But do you know that
wonderful.
kelp is not something that we consume at all?
Well,
I'm thankful that the privilege of having these herbs and the privilege of the knowledge of these herbs, because it's the knowledge that is where you start the empowerment, and that is what we're encouraging our people first, and those beyond our shores. We encourage you to put your best foot forward, when it comes to your health and when it comes to being the best of you, and
Yes.
seek the knowledge. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power, and the more knowledge you have, is the less vulnerable you will feel when it comes to disease.
Absolutely. And you've seen me smiling ever since you started talking about kelp, because you see, maybe you forgot, but the one of the project we've done a few projects on this journey that since we've been partnering on this wellness, health, natural health and wellness, and maybe you forgot, but when I was researching for the very first book we wrote a few years ago in 2024,
2024, yeah.
Came up a lot, and we started narrowing and talking about children, because I'm a teacher, I'm a researcher by professor, but I'm also a professor and teacher, and at various levels. And for me, I've seen the importance of putting things to children and to little ones. And my passion, what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to push, what I want to see happen in Dominica and across the Caribbean and other places, is for children to learn about their local culture, for children to learn what these plants are, what these herbs, and what they can do for you, and so forth.
I think a call is coming in.
We have a
Should we
call
take it?
coming. Yes, but I want children to learn, but let's hear what the caller have to say.
Hello, good evening, caller.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening. I'm the herbal doctors. Yeah, very good program, very educational program. Yeah, thanks for educating the people, or Dominican people. And they need to get back to their culture. To the old days. It's herbal medicine. That's the healing of the nation. It's in the Bible, and they should listen to you guys. It's natural. So much processed food, people, just buy junk, and so much diseases. Tend to get back to the soil. It's natural. Too much people. People need their plot backyard. To do their things. I see them making one apartment, and people cannot even plant nothing for them to yeah. So they must say things are hard, because if you buy everything, things must hard for you. But you got a plan so you could reap. And all the best. Thanks for the program. Keep up the good work. If it's true, I'm really thank you. That's for sure. Good night. Bless and bless up. I'm listening. Hello.
Yes, thank you. You're most welcome. I can feel the passion in your voice.
Definitely.
Yes.
And you're absolutely right. We have to start to plant.
Yes.
And that's part of the point I was going to make with you when I said I want the children to learn it. And I smiled when we started talking about kelp, because in the research from years ago, and then even when we wrote this, when the second book came up about, because if you remember, the chapter 7 of the first book was too long and all about foods, the importance of food. And the second book on foods and nutrition for health and healing came about. And again, we pulled aside a number of critical herbs and plants that children need to be exposed to. And my goal is to really put those herbs and plants and information into the hands of children, our youth. And so kelp is one of the plants that we identified for the children's coloring book. And so that's why I was smiling, because most recently the printing of the children's coloring book has been completed, and kelp is in there. And I want us to find a way to get those coloring books to students across Dominica, to get coloring books into the schools, because the plants and herbs are featured in there, what they do, how they work, what they do for our body, the different parts of our body, and so forth. And in fact, just to remind you, on Wednesday, a little after 9 a.m., we'll be on King John 5th Street, going across from Phone Shack, with some of those coloring books available. So hopefully people will be able to come and see what we have available for children, because it's about getting the children to learn and exposing them to what is good and right for our bodies. But back to the research, huge studies again, especially this one is from the British Medical Journal, that showed that eating whole grain food, natural plant-based foods, lowered the risks of, as we said, cancer, respiratory disease, and so forth. But it's eating simple things like legumes, beans, which give us plant proteins and soluble fibers, magnesium, folate. These plant foods have so much that our bodies need. These things help us so much with improving blood glucose level with legumes, for example, improving LDL cholesterol and blood pressure. And when we replace carbohydrates and fatty processed foods with them, so what we have to do is replace some of these things with those more natural foods and herbs, and make, as you said, make it a complete, make everything a whole process. So I'm so pleased that you brought up those some of those herbs and some of those things that we need to do, because the research is there. So this week is all positive research, all positive studies that show that we have what it takes. And as you say, we have the herbs. And it's funny because Israel and Australia always seem to be pushing, leading the research on blue vervain, on kelp, on cerasee, and those things. So we have to keep going with these things. We definitely have to. We have to keep going because there is the evidence there. Research, when we talk again on different regions where that's what they eat, we'll see that they have very low incidence of disease.
I totally 100%, agree with you when it comes to the next generation. The next generation, that's who we have to cater for, because we know right now, even children from as low as the age of 9, 10 years, 11, 12 years can be suffering from diabetes. I know of children, that already came to asthma as well. Parents came to asthma
Wow.
because the children are taking the insulin shots.
Wow. So it's already affecting our children.
Our children are being exposed to such conditions. But as I'm saying to us, only when we know what we have, then we learn to appreciate what we have. And what we have, not by accident, but what we have been blessed with by the hands of Mother Nature, is the wild plants, is the wild foods, those from the sea, those from the lands, those that grows on uncultivated lands, those that grows on the vegetable beds. These are the gifts that we have received from Mother Nature, and these gifts, they were given to us for our longevity, for our well-being. They were given to us to rejuvenate our bodies from a cellular level. So I'm saying to us, only when we know and understand these resources, then we will learn to appreciate these resources. Because in my experience, I have been challenged by medical practitioners, namely nurses, and not anything harsh. We always have dialogues because I love to exchange information. And one of the things they say to me, we said, suppose you have an emergency, and a patient need emergency care. Well, you're going to give them bush medicine? I was challenged with such statements, and I say, well, you are speaking that way because you don't know, and if you don't know, you won't have any solution for what you're saying to me.
So what would you do if an emergency?
Yes, I'm saying to us tonight, the opportunity came to me when I had this patient in their late 60s had gotten a heart attack, and this person was admitted to the hospital. This person was on the ICU ward, in and out of the normal ward, back to the ICU for about a month.
Wow.
And the high blood pressure was sky high, the sugar levels were sky high.
Wow.
The entire body was swollen.
Oh, wow.
No energy. And after 1 month, they decided to discharge this individual from the hospital. And yes, so one of the experiences that I had was attending to a patient that was that came directly from the ICU. And this patient was in their late 60s. This patient was suffering from hypertension, skyrocketed, diabetes, sugar blood levels skyrocketed, inflammation levels very high, swollen foot, edema. And after 1 month of being in the ICU, they had to discharge the patient because the doctor recommended that they fly the patient to Martinique to seek more advanced medical attention.
Wow.
I was close to the family. I am close to the family of this patient. So I advised them to give me the opportunity to work with the patient directly
Okay.
from leaving the door of the ICU. And I don't exaggerate. This patient was given a bag of drug medication for every single 9 to 10 different conditions.
Wow.
Dr. Lockhart, this patient was in the ICU for 1 month. With herbal medicines, we could rejuvenate this patient within 2 weeks.
So you did or could?
We did rejuvenate this patient and heal this patient from most of the conditions that they were in the ICU suffering from within 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I will say to us, this patient is alive and well. And they can attest what I'm saying.
Wow.
And the most profound thing, they took no drug medication.
So what did you do?
All they took was the herbs that we have growing wild in our environment. We had a plan, we had a regime.
Okay.
From morning, from rising,
Mm-hmm.
we had a regime. For the course of the day, you have a regime. For the last thing at night, you have a regime. I mean a plan. So you have a plan from rising until going to bed.
Okay. A plan for medicines and food.
And the plan was basically starting your day using herbs that is going to cleanse your arteries and cleanse your vessels and strengthen your cardiovascular system.
Okay.
Because the patient was suffering from a stroke.
Wow.
We gave the patient herbs to help to reduce high levels of inflammation. Raw salads. One of the herbs that we have is we call it chine bush locally, or zepques.
Oh wow, Cochlear.
Cochlear. Most people call it cochlear also. So this herb, we use it as a raw salad.
Wow.
And do you know this herb is also called inflammation bush? Because this is excellent for inflammation. And within 2 weeks, we saw this patient improve in their health from having a swollen body to everything being normalized. And I'm saying to us, there is no magic pill. It is a process when it comes for healing.
Yes.
And the foods along with your herbal medicines, and last but not least, a therapeutical approach, whether you soak your feet, whether you get a massage with essential oils, or whether you have a herbal bath. All these are approaches that we use to rejuvenate the body from a cellular level. And we saw this patient, getting healed, and up to this day on no drug medication, Dr. Lockhart.
Wow.
And I'm saying to us, all the herbs, all the medicines that we use to help this patient, we found it in our environment.
Right here. We have what
right
it takes
here in Dominica.
to be not healthy by nature. We are the nature island.
Definitely.
This should be our motto, healthy by nature.
Definitely.
And we can get there. We have to, like I say, I want us to start with the children and getting some of these information into schools and helping children to know what they should be doing in terms of, drinking water and eating the right foods and making the choice between candy and mango and so forth.
Yeah. But the parents need to be also enlightened too. As you know, the children doesn't govern themselves.
That's true.
So the parent needs to know that be careful what you feed your child with, because when you look at the sugars, this high level of sucrose, these high levels of processed sugars, and you find your child is acting very hyper. Sometimes you find your babies. Your babies may suffer from what you call eczema, from these rashes. We also allude, and shout it out very loud that the best milk that a baby should consume is the milk from the mother's breast. So try to avoid as much as possible the processed milks. So I've seen a lot of babies who come with rash and eczema, and most time the culprit is the synthetic products that
absolutely.
they're taking.
And a lot of it, even some of the studies show you that a lot of the baby milk, the formula is made from synthetic products.
It is.
It's replicas of what a mother's milk should be.
Yeah, it's a synthetic duplicate. And even more profound, women must understand that whenever you breastfeed your child, do you know that this give you a lower risk of even getting breast cancer?
Like, oh yes. I hope people know that.
So when it comes to the children, we look at from the infant stage until the child grows up to be a young adult, and catering them, nourishing them from a very young age until a tender age, of 12, 13. That child immunological system is so boosted up that you could hardly get a cold, you could hardly get a flu, because most times we think that disease and these environmental pollutions, because we are around it automatically, it will affect us. But no,
It's what we
if
put
our
into our
defense system is working to the optimum level, we are not so vulnerable to disease and pathogens. And
you're right.
And that is what we have not been focusing on. We can't empower our bodies. We are the host for disease. Disease is like a parasite. It depends on what the host, which is your body, what you put into your body. I say to people, you can do two things. You can starve a disease, or you can feed a disease. Cancer in particular, a lot of people are suffering from cancer. And once they hear they have cancer, they're fearful.
True. Very true.
Cancer light can be turned off and turned on. It have been researched, and the research have shown, and for example, there is a book I read, the China study. This study showed that whenever they feed, they use rats and mice. Whenever they feed a rat, they induce the rat with cancer. And when they feed the rat with excess sugars, you see how the cancer cells develop rapidly.
Yes, sugar is one of those.
Sugars and also dairy products. And on another studies, they showed that rats was induced with cancer, and they avoid the sugars and the dairy products, and you see the cancer cells was lessened. The cancer was actually destroyed. So we know that nutrition plays a critical role. It is sad also when the persons that we depend on to guide us with our health would say that nutrition has nothing to do with hypertension or diabetes. It is sad in this 2000, in this 2026, in this era that we're living, because the evidence of non-food items, the evidence of gluten, the evidence of high saturated fats, the evidence of excess sugars and salts, all these can affect your heart. All this can affect your vessels. All this can compromise your general health.
Oh yes, and you mentioned the impact of sugar and dairy. And recently, it's been a few years now, the National Institute of Health in the United States published a study, and actually on the National Institute of Health website, it lists some of these items, some of these processed sugars, and even cheese. I was surprised. Cheese, which is a significant dairy source, as one of the culprits feeding cancer cells and so forth. So
Definitely.
It's amazing, because some of the certain regions where their diet is in a particular state, or they tend to eat a certain type of thing. For example, in the Mediterranean areas where they eat things that are more things that are leaning towards nuts, olive oil, so forth, and they don't really eat a lot of animal foods. They eat a lot of fruits and herbs and grains. It many studies, like there's the 7-country study done by the New England Journal of Medicine. They have very low incidence. They have very, very low rates of coronary heart diseases. Same thing like in the traditional Okinawan diet around Okinawa, Japan. They normally eat sweet potatoes.
I think there's a caller.
And so forth. There again, their diet has led them to have very little
Hello, good evening.
incidence of certain disease.
Okay.
Good evening.
No, I think we lost this one.
We lost this caller, but what I was saying is that in in those regions where they have certain diets, sweet potatoes, for example, green and yellow vegetables,
Mhm.
in Japan, very small amounts of fish and very little refined sugar. They tend to have very, very low incidence of these. And we should we know it by ourselves? They live exceptionally long. They have one of the largest number of centurions worldwide
Yeah.
across Japan, across Okinawa, and that's published in the Journal of American College of Nutrition and so forth. Even simple studies show that even some Seventh-day Adventist groups who follow very particular dietary plans tend to have very low amounts of diseases. So there's evidence that what we eat, how we live, has a big impact. For example, in 2020, I was in the north of Ghana doing some research and some work on food sourcing. And we went to an area called the Kirugu village, close to Nalaregu, in northern Ghana, in the Sahel region. And we probably tested about a couple hundred people. And these people, they eat natural, they live natural, they pretty much don't have electricity, they pump their water. There were, out of all the hundreds, I think there was one person who was borderline high blood pressure,
Mhm.
and there was no diabetes in the whole area. So how we live is evidence of what's possible for our health. Certainly, definitely.
Yes. So the evidence of all this bombardment of disease, it is not innate to our nature, beautiful isle. It is imported,
Absolutely.
and why we are suffering from such conditions and why it is actually it's a pandemic because it's out of control. We are suffering from these conditions. Why? Because we choose what you call a SAD, a standard American diet. The Western diet that we have choose have compromised our innate ability to remain healthy, to remain strong. But we have the privilege simply to go back to what our forefathers thrived on.
That's it.
And we can say aloud that our land is still rich with all the natural plants, the fertile soil. We have the privilege to drink from the source. My beautiful people, we have the privilege to drink directly from Mother Nature, what you call alkaline water. We have these things in our environment. We have these things in Dominica. So I'm saying to us that we are not in a state of hopelessness. We may be hopeless in our minds, but I'm saying to us that we can be empowered with the knowledge of the plants, with the knowledge of the healing wonders of the herbs we have all in our environment. One of the herbs we have, Dr. Locker, that is so wonderful and dear to my heart is a herb we call kojo root.
Oh, kojo root, yes.
Kojo root.
Cancer fighting all over the world studies now.
Kojo root also, we call kojo root guinea hen weed. In some places, it is called strongman bush.
Wow.
Kojo root is also called anamu. So these are many names that you can find this wonderful plant. Scientifically, kojo root is called Petiveria alsea because it is well documented scientifically. Petiveria alsea. And this plant, we know locally as a young boy growing up in the city, our grandparents used to use this herb to wash the homes, to wash the house, especially if you have an infestation of pests or parasites.
Bob, yes.
And this herb, it would run away, to draw away the pests and the parasites immediately after using this herb.
Even bed bugs, from what I understood.
And bed bugs also. Do you know that this herb right now is being researched and has been researched for hundreds of years by many institutes outside of the Caribbean for its specific active compound that can destroy malignant cells.
Wow, yeah. Recently, I know there's a Jamaica is really pushing.
Jamaica is one of the islands that is pushing the use of the kojo root, the Guinean weed. And it came to my mind, with the knowledge our grandparents had, they did not get it from a book. It was knowledge handed over from generation to generation.
Yes, we have to share.
And understanding the chemistry of this plant, the kojo root, when you wash your house, it runs away all pests, all parasites. Do you know that when you take this plant internally, it has the same effect? We know that our bodies can be infested with parasites,
Pests.
with worms, with pests. Even as we speak, we know right now the evolution of science and medicine. We are now hearing about your gut microbiome. Your gut microbiome is speaking of the fauna and the flora of good bacteria in your gut. Kojo root is one of the herbs that will destroy the bad bacteria, that will destroy the parasites, leaving your good and natural flora intact. Kojo root is one of the herbs that will destroy cancer tumors, destroy malignant tumors. We have been using this herb extensively and with good results. So this is one of the herbs that it's a wow plant in the environment, and I'm encouraging men, women, we don't have to have any disease to take herbal medicines. You take herbal medicines as preventative measures.
And that's where we need to get, and that's why my push is for the children, because if we start from young, that becomes part of our way of life. That's what we need. And it's interesting that you mentioned the gut microbiome, because in a conversation a few days ago, I was talking about green bananas, and the second book we wrote, that if I know many people bought that book, so I want people to go start at page 190, the book on food and nutrition, and you read about the power and the property of green fig, one of the things we have right here in Dominica, because green bananas, for example, has resistant starch, and what it does, it doesn't completely digest, but in fact, when it gets into the gut, it ferments. It makes a bacteria that ferments in the gut, and then those fermentation creates short chain fatty acids, including butyrate, that really helps the body. It helps the gut microbiome. So there's a reason for eating these foods, and that helps with so much. Having that gut microbiome strengthened, it nourishes the colon cells, it supports the intestinal barriers, it helps to influence fight against inflammation. It even improves insulin sensitivity. So, having these foods, like you said, this natural food, green banana, especially because it's starchier than the ripe ones, of course. And it has those properties that can help us. So what we eat is definitely a key thing.
Definitely. But Dr. Locke, when you look at who created this entity, this beautiful body that we have a creator.
Of course.
And we cannot divorce our creator from the topic of health, because he's the ultimate healer. For me, the example that I look at as a healer is no other than the Christ. He is the master healer. He is the great physician. And I can say to us that all the natural plants and all the healing wonders of the earth, he has the knowledge of these wonderful gifts of healing that we have all around us up to this day. So I'm saying to us, herbal medicines is the ultimate goal that we should thrive and strive to have as an intimate source of our life, because we, at this present point in our existence, we have an error of not knowing how to keep ourselves well, an error of not knowing how to heal our bodies. I'm saying to us, we don't have to stay lack of the knowledge of herbs. We don't have to stay lack of the power that is all around us, given to us by Mother Nature.
Right here in Dominica.
The herbs was given to you for the service of man. The herbs grows wild. Let's not neglect what Mother Nature has blessed us with to keep us strong and healthy. And in my conclusion, Dr. Lockhart, speaking of the children, our last book that we collaborated on to bring forth, to manifest the beautiful and wonderful knowledge of herbs, fruits, forests and heritage. We have this beautiful book that we introduce into our children and even young adults. Our new literature is called Nature's Treasure. Nature's Treasure, Herbs, Fruits, Forests and Heritage. It's a Caribbean coloring and activity book. Yes. We have this new publication that we're going to present to the public. So I'm inviting the public to come join us on Wednesday. That's the 22nd?
I believe so, yes.
Yes, we will be on King George V Street, That is the street what you call Funchak. Funchak is
Yeah,
located.
on the way to Astafans.
That's where my present office, my former office used to be on King Joy Fifth Street. We also know that the Lotto office, the was located on King Joy
That's
Fifth
right.
Street.
Yes.
So would be actually on this very same street on Wednesday. We're going to be starting from 10. We're going to be having a display of our books.
Okay.
We're going to be having a display of some of our medicines.
Okay.
We're going to allude to the track of Chubby, bring back the milk and the honey, cane juice and bush medicines. So we're going to be having cane juice and bush medicines on Wednesday, and we're going to be there to interact with the general public. So I'm saying to one and all, you're invited to come join us on Wednesday.
Definitely.
On King Joseph Fifth Street.
On the way to Astafans, yes.
So we are looking forward to interact and to share, the knowledge that we have on the medicinal plants. We also going to have live displays of this plant. So anyone that have questions, we welcome you to come. Let's have a dialogue. Let's empower each one, teach one.
That's what we
So
do.
we'll be available on Wednesday. Put that date on the 22nd. That's just tomorrow is Tuesday, the day after tomorrow. So
Yes.
we'll be there to entertain the general public, to edify you, and freely have a dialogue on the best way forward when it comes
Yes.
to optimum health.
And empowering ourselves naturally. That's what we need to do. We have to empower our healthy self naturally.
Definitely.
Definitely. It's
Yes.
such a pleasure to share with you, Mr. Deja.
Yes, it's
I
also a
look forward
pleasure,
to
Dr.
seeing
Lockett.
many in the public on Wednesday morning, right
Yes.
where the old Lotto office used to be on King George Fifth Street, across from Phone Shack.
Yes.
Looking forward to seeing you and all as we bring back the milk and honey. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. We look forward to natural health and healing with you here across Dominica and the Caribbean and the world.
Yes. So we are. A call is coming through. No. Okay. So once again, we thank you for your listening here, and we thank the caller for calling in. And once again, we encourage you and we empower you with this saying that you don't have to suffer for a lifetime. You don't have to, suffer from pains and from non-communicable diseases from a lifetime, because your body has the ability to heal itself.
That is it.
And that's how you were designed, and that's how it is. So, a pleasant night to everyone. Blessings and healing to everyone. Patients that need extra, the extra voice, this extra encouragement, we are available, to empower you, to give you that sense of empowerment, to let you know that you don't have to suffer. Good night.
Absolutely. Good night.
Tous les jours, capable de crier, moi. Qui va c'est un homme pour aimer, moi. Qui va c'est un homme pour caresser. Tous les jours, capable de crier, moi. Parce que Dieu, c'est un homme qui va aimer, moi. Ouais, mais fais l'amour et puis je chante. Parce que je cadence bien. Cadence bien. Caline bien. Cavale bien. Cachete bien. Os amigos. Oh Lord, look upon my people. Now we are going off of our culture. The oppressors have changed our skin. We need to build back ourselves. Oh Lord, bring back the middle. Can't you stand good medicine? Bring back the middle. Vanilla and cassava. Bring back the middle. Coconut oil and cotton. Bring back the middle. Oh yes, my people, hear the cry of us. We are oppressed, so long we've been kept down. Remember, he said, "Be fruitful, that we need more natural food." Bring back the milk and honey. Can't you stand bush berries? Bring back the milk and honey. Vanilla and cassava. Bring back the milk and honey. Coconut oil and cotton. Bring back the milk.